Have you ever seen a short film just because you wanted to? Hello and welcome to Coop-a-Log, the video log. This is week 9, February. This is a decent week. There's some highlights here. Monday there was nothing. Tuesday there was nothing. Now Wednesday, the 25th of February, was maybe a little bit special. And how it links back to my question at the beginning is because this was Judgement, the Park Chan Wook short film. This is around 20 minutes long, and I watched this just because, well, first of all, I really have been meaning to watch this forever, but this being a 20-minute short film, I thought there will occasionally be a moment where I don't have enough hours in an evening to watch a proper film, but have enough time for just a little short film, and this is where this came in. This was in there as a reserve, just waiting there. And that's kind of my question, is how often do you just sit down and feel like I want to watch a short film right now? Because usually they're almost reserved for when you have just a time for a short film, which, hey, I think often enough they get dismissed for just either, as far as I understand in the narrative of the cinema business, short films are almost as proof of concepts to justify financing for the bigger project. I think that's how, didn't Saw essentially get funding like that? I know the Lights Out, for example, from David F. Sandberg, that was done as a short film and then as a proof of concept. I thought it was an interesting idea, so that was financed into its own film. I'm not sure if there was ever an intention of that happening or that just came to be, but the point is that with Judgement, the amount of stuff that Park Chan Wook can do in 20 minutes is more than what some can do in 2 hours. Maybe that's a testament of where some ideas just get stretched more than they really should, or just a testament to how amazing Park Chan Wook is. Synopsis for this one. At the identification of a dead body, a couple and a morgue employee both claim to be a relative of the deceased. And so look, in typical Park Chan Wook fashion, it's a comedic and morbid story. It balances the two so well, and it is just fascinating to see how much of his style was already present from the beginning. This is not a filmmaker that has been trying to find himself throughout his journey as a filmmaker. No, he had a sense of style from the beginning. I'm not sure how much of that was maybe borrowed from some other directors or just developed from the beginning. I know Alfred Hitchcock is technically a big inspiration for Park Chan Wook, so I'll be honest, I have to confess that I've only seen 3 Hitchcock films at this point, but it's almost like a thing that I'm just saving maybe for a while. It's just I don't often find myself being like, oh, you know, I want to watch that now. It just never comes to my mind, although I have a Blu-ray collection of his films, some of them in 4K, and specific ones like Vertigo, Rear Window, I've been meaning to watch for a long time. I have those in 4K, so I'm just saving them for a special occasion. Yeah, and you know what? I really do wish there was more short films like that to just explore one point and don't drag on the film to then it's like, oh, let us add this, let us do this, and then maybe the point is lost among the rest of the film. I suppose sometimes the idea just evolves and morphs, and that's where beauty of cinema can be. But sometimes just one simple point is all there is to it, isn't there, huh? And this one really does dig into that as well. Then Thursday, mama, EPiC, Elvis Presley in concert, and by the way, Elvis Presley in concert is EPiC, as in E for Elvis you get it. You get it. I don't have to explain it to you. And what I have to say first of all, to preface, it's really nice of Baz Luhrmann to put this together and to have his usual style shine through is very epic. It has the visual flourishes that Baz Luhrmann is very much known for, and it makes sense to where he would put this together. And it is interesting how we see multiple facets of Elvis Presley throughout the different films now, where we have this character study by having different films. And this is, of course, Priscilla from Sofia Copolla having this very third-person view of Elvis Presley through perspective of Priscilla Presley, and then we had Elvis, the Baz Luhrmann biopic, which was phenomenal for its style and point of view, almost from the perspective of the Colonel, which is played by Tom Hanks. So that almost detached it a little bit from Elvis being a side character in his own film, which is an interesting perspective for a biopic to have. This is not something that Michael could say. And by the way, you can already tell this was filmed in May because Michael already came out. And EPiC is, in this trifecta, the sort of the missing piece. This is Elvis in his domain, although it's maybe fair to say it's the domain of the Colonel. First of all, by the way, I just gone through all of that without saying what the synopsis is, and because there isn't really a synopsis, as using archival footage of performances and interviews, we get a glimpse of the rise of Elvis before his fate in Vegas was sealed. As biographical as Elvis is, I suppose, in a sense, because it does pack so much information into the montage at the beginning, which is very, very Baz Luhrmann in that sense, and then it sprinkles in things throughout the film, and that is really, it is really amazing how much it can weave a narrative out of the interviews and then splice it in with the footage of the performances that are themselves an exploration of who Elvis is as a person, how much of his performance persona is his actual persona, I suppose, in a sense. Where is the line? There doesn't seem to be a line, and performers like that, they just don't exist anymore, I suppose. And that was, to see this in IMAX was really an experience. It was really an experience, I have to say. It was an epic experience, must I say. Then Saturday, 28th of February. This was a very sad day for me, I suppose. Return to Silent Hill. Look, I wish I could return Silent Hill back to not being produced, because that was... Look, Silent Hill 2 is my favorite work of art of all time. The video game, the original, the remake, both of them I love very dearly. I love the survival horror as a whole, and specifically this adaptation. I was very much aware this probably not going to be good. I didn't manage to catch it in the cinemas, probably for the better, because I'm not sure I wanted to support this film. But okay, the synopsis, before I go off rails, the synopsis. James receives a letter from his late wife saying that she's waiting for him in Silent Hill. He goes there to find her, but only finds the truth instead. I just have to preface, I've made an hour-long essay, critical analysis of this film in terms of how it butchered the adaptation of Silent Hill as a video game, as a story, as a narrative, how it deviated so much from the source material and picked its influences and inspirations from completely different works that completely misrepresent what Silent Hill 2 as a story actually is, to the point I just don't find this to be a Silent Hill 2 adaptation. I know some enjoyed this for this exact reason, thinking that this is an interesting take on Silent Hill 2 because of how much it changes. But at that point, is that even Silent Hill 2? Because once you go so far away from the core premise of the story, then it's not that story anymore. Just rename this. Just, I can tell you that looking at the interviews, watching the interviews from Christoph Gans, his inspirations for this was the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, the poet that goes to hell to save his lover, and also he actually does he did name Romeo and Juliet as an inspiration to one of the actresses in the film. So those are not what Silent Hill 2 is. Silent Hill 2 was inspired by, first of all, Crime and Punishment, the Fyodor Dostoevsky novel, then also Lost Highway from David Lynch, also Jacob's Ladder, and those are completely different stories, and none of them are the sort of the crux of what Silent Hill 2 as a story is, because they are, Silent Hill 2 was inspired by them, but it was not adapting them, whereas this is, Return to Silent Hill does not adapt Silent Hill 2 meaningfully. It does not get inspired by Silent Hill 2 meaningfully. At this point, my conversation around this film mostly not how good or bad as a film it is, but how good or bad as an adaptation it is. But for me, I because I love Silent Hill 2 so much, as it being my favorite work of art of all time, and so it appears to be for Christoph Gans, who directed this film and wrote this film as well. So for me, it's just strange to think that somebody who claims to love this as much as he does, for him to deviate so far from it. And I really do question whether me as a fan, whether maybe that blinds me too much. And I don't know, the amount of changes, I think it ends up making Return to Silent Hill as a generic horror film with some of the usual tropes, and it just reuses the iconography of Silent Hill 2, the video game. So you have those same scenes from the game adapted, but because of the changes to the characters, to the narrative, those scenes lose their original intended impact, which begs the question, why have those scenes in the film anyway? Or rather, he tries to have his own unique take of Silent Hill 2, but then he still has the same scenes of the game, but they're misplaced here, because that is not... They don't belong in this story. This is a catch-22. This is a Ouroboros of a analysis, because I cannot divorce this from the source material, and maybe this is this probably the closest I will ever come to understanding where, when Marvel fans, comic book fans, complain about Batman or something being too different, where people complain about Wolverine not having his original suit, I don't care about things like that. Maybe this is the closest I will ever get to people complaining about, well, the book adaptation was better because it had more material and they changed this and that. Maybe this is the closest I will ever get to that, because I don't feel attached to any other work of art in particular. And yeah, it doesn't work for me at all. This is one of the worst films I've seen of all time, which probably is a testament to how little bad films I really have seen. But yeah, as I said, I do have a 1 hour long video which explains all of my grievances, but what you've just received now is a summary of that, an executive summary, you could say, and the video itself goes into very extreme detail, specifically comparing the film and the game and where the differences lie. So yeah, if you ever feel like wasting an hour of your life, by all means. Although I think that, by the way, that video very much heavily relies on you having knowledge of Silent Hill 2, the game, and the story. I think without that, some of the... because I was not going into detail of Silent Hill 2 and saying, you see, this is different there, this is different there. It very much relies on you having that knowledge. So if you don't, first of all, I would recommend anybody to experience Silent Hill 2. And there is the remake now. I do feel like the original is still very much its own thing that the remake does not replace. It adds on and builds on. Return to Silent Hill is not that, which is my core issue with that. And then, just to save myself for that week, which is Sunday, 1st of March, we finally moved into next month. was Mirror, the Andrei Tarkovsky film. I just needed to watch something good after Return to Silent Hill because, look, that was not good. Synopsis. And by the way, this is, I feel like having the synopsis ahead of watching the film, because just to preface, whenever I watch films, I don't usually know what they are about. I do not watch trailers. I do not want to have any preconceived notion or expectation of what I think the film would be about. Sometimes a synopsis can be a good narrative frame to understand how the whole story connects together. I have to say, watching Mirror, without knowing anything, I was a little bit lost. So if you feel like... I feel like it's an experience that is really good to have without having any understanding of what this story is really about. And it's funny because I was watching interviews, or rather, I think it was in a documentary I was watching about Andrei Tarkovsky's life, which was specifically made by his son, where he recounts the story of when The Mirror was premiered in front of critics, and they were discussing what the film is about, and just trying to understand, to unwrap it all. And they were really they couldn't agree on a meaning. And then apparently a cleaning lady came into the room, and then she chimed in and says like, "Oh, what is there to argue about? It's a story about," by the way, a synopsis incoming. If you feel like you would like to watch The Mirror, which is Andrei Tarkovsky film, first of all, it's a Tarkovsky film. It's part of a Criterion collection. This is a warning. I will say what the synopsis is. In general, I feel like it's better watching without that warning. Yeah. So yeah, you skip ahead to 15-20 seconds if you just don't want to hear my thoughts about the film, because I do not go in depth about it. This wouldn't be the place for that. Consider yourself warned. Synopsis: a sick man recalls memories of his childhood and personal moments that he feels sorry about. That's kind of it, because the film doesn't really ever say it kind of hints to that, but it never really says what it is, and the critics were really trying to understand what it is about. And but yeah, sometimes having the simplest frame of reference can be very beneficial, because as a film as masterful as any other works from Tarkovsky's are, just like a broken... Alright, my thoughts, I would have tried to just literally... Usually what I have my bullet points, and I use those as reference to mention the things I want to talk about, but I think in this case, I will just read it from the book. Just like a broken mirror, the memories of the past that we most often recall are disjointed and can't be put together. But they reflect parts of us all the same, pieces of a whole, all true but incomplete. And just like shards of glass, memories can cut with their sharp edges, some more than others. I can't help but get philosophical when talking about Tarkovsky. His art simply does not exist within boundaries of cinematic convention to be easily understood and explained by reciting what happens in the story, and that's why the synopsis can be a good frame to understand the film, what the film is generally trying to achieve and explore with the images. But as I said, it feels so disjointed, not in a sense that it is a critique. It is on point, and as I said, it's like a mirror that has been broken, shattered. I would like to believe that anybody watching this has at some point found themselves thinking back to a memory that randomly appeared in their head, and this is what this film just so clearly illustrates and captures, and it's nothing, I've never seen anything else achieve it, explore that, and that what makes Tarkovsky so special, and one of the best films I've seen ever. And it's a clear departure from Return to Silent Hill, but to The Mirror. I had to feel something, and that is it for week 9. You know what? That was an interesting one. I nearly fell apart in the end, but I brought it back with Tarkovsky. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Go watch The Mirror right now.